All right, well, welcome everybody to this month's Happiness Hour. We are so excited to have two highly recommended people with us today. Ted and Eric, they were on the podcast with Dr. Linda, the Conspiracy Goodness podcast. And after they were on, we always chat about the guests. And Linda was so excited and happy and had the best time talking to you guys that she was like, you got to get these guys on for Happiness Hour. They're going to be incredible. So Ted and Eric, they have so much that to talk to them, they're like very good friends. They are awesome people. And they are the hosts of the 30-Minute Hour podcast, which is a personal development podcast for authors, entrepreneurs, and career professionals. They're also founders of the What Now movement, which I'm so excited to talk about. I think it's one of the most empowering things I've heard about in a while. And that's a community of over 1,700 people who are inspiring others to pivot and to keep working on the things instead of stopping when it comes to achieving their long-term goals. It's a great community and a great asset that I can't wait to share with our community here today. So Eric Twiggs, he's your procrastination prevention partner, and he's the author of The Discipline of Now, 12 Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination. And Ted Fells is the super CEO and business strategist extraordinaire. And together with their experience combined, they just bring this insightful and practical set of tips and experiences to personal development. So Eric and Ted, thank you guys for joining us today to talk about your stories and to help kind of guide us through these topics of personal development and exploring all of life's possibilities. So thank you guys so much for joining us.
Hey, wow. Thank you for having us. It's an honor.
Yeah. So I want to get started. I like knowing the backgrounds of our speakers when we get started. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves a little bit, your background, and how you got into this world of entrepreneurship and personal development. And I don't know if there's a preferred person who usually starts on these things, but Ted or Eric, why don't you, whoever wants to jump in first, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. So I'm Eric Twiggs. I'm your procrastination prevention partner, the author of The Discipline of Now, the host of the 30-Minute Hour podcast, like it's been stated. So really, I help entrepreneurs to beat procrastination so they can make more money, get more done, and feel more confident. And one of the reasons I got into this line of work, I mean, there's another backstory, but I mean, just the kind of the basic thing is that, yeah, I've led teams where I've had 17 locations and 500 employees working for me. And I started noticing patterns, right? I noticed that you could have someone that had good performance, and then you could have someone who had great performance. And in most cases, their level of know-how is very similar. But what I found is that what separates the good from the great is that the great had this habit of being able to do the things they needed to do, whether they felt like it or not. It's just that little difference. It's that discipline of now. And that's why I focus on what I focus on. That's what I do. And Ted and I have teamed up to be on the 30-Minute Hour podcast to really join forces. And he's got a whole unique set of experiences and approach. And I think that's what makes the podcast work.
Beautiful. Ted, what about you? Can you give us your background as well?
I'm still trying to deal with this warm and fuzzy, happy feeling you got me. The way I just kept smiling, I just felt like, man, this is great. No, man, we need to. Yeah, that just got me going. So I appreciate that intro. So I've been an entrepreneur since 1996, right? So since I was probably like 4 or 5 years old. I know you're looking at that saying, yeah, 1996, you started really young. So I started an information technology company, New Core Vision. We provide IT services to both government and the private sector. And so I've been dealing with entrepreneurship. I didn't grow up in an environment of entrepreneurs, so I didn't know, right? I just had to learn. I was used to working for someone. I worked for the federal government. Everyone around me and family worked. And so this whole entrepreneur stuff was nothing that I really knew about. And over the years, there's been just so many things that, just you experience as an entrepreneur, right? And I tell people all the time, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to decide, do you want to truly be an entrepreneur? Do you want to make a lot of money, right? You can make a lot of money, work for someone else, and you can be an entrepreneur and not make a lot of money. But I would never trade the entrepreneur path, right? Like being able to know where you want to go, how you want to do it. You know, people are like, oh, it's Saturday. You're working on a Saturday? I'm like, well, yeah, that's what we do. And when you do what you got to do to get it done, there's no, okay, the weekend is here and it's all done. No, you go back to your list of things you got to get done and you make it happen. People will say to you, well, Ted, you can, don't even come in today if you don't want to. I'm like, you're right. I don't have to go in any day, right? But if I want this to be successful, right, I'm going to have to go in and put in the time. Once you bring on employee number one, right, that person not only is they're trusting you for their paycheck, right? They're trusting you, right? They could have gone to any other company in the world, but they decided to join along with you, right? And so that makes you dig deeper. So it's not just about you, and sometimes you push through it whether you feel like it or not. But again, there's nothing like true entrepreneurship, if it's in you, right? You just don't want to quit. And so again, in business for 20 plus years, provided contracts around the world, and had ups and downs. There's been the great days and there's been the not so great days, but again, it's all about the journey, right? And so Eric and I, we met, connected in church, right? And we always see each other and, hey, how's it going? Oh man, it's going well. And you spoke and have a blessed week, and that's how it went. Then it was like, man, I like him. Yeah, we tell, some people you just say, hey, and some people you talk to a little longer. And that was one that we used to have some great conversation. And so we need to figure out something to do. And every week we'd say that, right? We'd get together and go watch sports and eat chicken wings and pizza and stuff. We got to get together. So there's one particular time we said, okay, we're going to do, we're going to get together and we're just going to figure it out. Like, we just going to figure this out. We just going to go to the Starbucks. We're going to sit in there until we figure this out. So I had a meeting with another, younger gentleman. He was talking to me about podcasts and a lot of that type of stuff, and other digital platform stuff. And then Eric came in, I introduced him, and I was like, hey man, what do we have to do to do a podcast? Oh, we download this software and this is what you do. And so we said, okay, Eric, we're not going to overthink this. Next Monday, and it was Thursday, like next Monday, we're going to meet in my office. I know someone that'll come in and record it, and we're just going to go with it, and we're going to interview someone we know. And so we started looking at people we knew that had business and other projects, and we started just bringing them in, and we'd recorded every single week, and we just kept going. And this was in February of 2019, and wow. And so things were going really well. It got to a point we started saying, hey, do you have anybody to interview this week? I don't know. Do you have anybody? Because at a certain point, your list starts getting shorter, right?
We know that one.
And so yeah, so what ended up happening was, the pandemic hit, and so it's like, oh man, many could have just said, hey, we're just going to wait until this thing is over. No, we were like, no, we're gonna, let's go on Zoom. And Eric, he does what he does. He goes out, figures the stuff out. This is how we can do it. And so we went on Zoom, and we continued from doing it every Monday on Zoom. And what ended up happening was we just started having guests coming to us. It was an amazing thing. And since then we haven't really had to search for guests anymore. The guests were just coming to us, and we've met
amazing
people like you all that we probably wouldn't have even met, right? If we had stayed in, it was in our circle, because I know Eric didn't know you, I didn't know you, right? So, so it just worked out, and it just opened up just some amazing conversations with others, and when we learned so much about people and all of that. And so then we said, okay, you know what, we're gonna do this conference and all of that. And then we said, well, but we can't really do that because you can't bring people together. And it's kind of, well, what now? Well, that's a cool name. We'll make it the What Now movement. And so we set up this community on Facebook and just started putting it out, and people just started joining from all over the place. And, and we're like, hey, look, we just gonna help people connect and do stuff, because we want everyone to win. And, and it wasn't about, anything. It was totally diverse. Right. And it's just been an amazing thing. And we've just come up with so many different things. What Now University. We got a What Now mindset book, like so many things that have come as a result of just really two people just coming together saying we want to do something together. And little did we know we'd have something like this in 2022.
That's touching so many people and bringing people together. I think I want to unpack the what now movement. I want to talk more about the podcast, but I kind of want to start off today. It seems like the thread for this, and I think it deals with, procrastination is like, and I think so much is like, how do you guys approach making the best of what you've got? Like, it seems like when you guys came together, you were like, hey, I see this asset in this guy that I love being around. We seem to overlap. Seems like part of procrastination might be like knowing when to jump on things and when to get started and how to get started. What are you guys' approach to taking things as they come? Because I think if we're starting off with how things are constantly evolving, how do you guys look at that, and how do you guys approach that kind of that part of life, I guess?
Yeah, I think you just have to be open and you have to be flexible. I mean, literally, I think we could write a book on how not to start a podcast, right? Like what not to do when you start a podcast. I mean, we literally just hit the record button and started talking. But I think we got a lot more structured. But I think there's some good things, because a lot of times if you sit and wait until you have it all figured out, you'll never start. Right. You say, oh, it's got to be perfect. I've got to have the right microphone. I've got to have the right this. I have to have the right questions to ask. You'll be waiting forever and you'll never start. So a lot of times you have to take the ready, fire, aim approach. Right. And you just course correct as you go. And now I think that's the key. And you just really have to be, you're not going to have it all figured out at the beginning. You have to go into it knowing that.
But one thing I think is Eric and I are a great partnership, and we're different. We're very different, right? And I think so. Eric is much more organized than me, right? So I don't know if you all remember there's a TV show years ago called The Odd Couple, right? And it was just like they were roommates, and it was just two different. One was totally unorganized, and the other one was kind of neat and have structure. And I'm the unorganized. Like I'm kind of like a mad scientist. Like I think about stuff. Like I'm like this. It's like a vision. Like I see something, and it's okay. And I need a person like Eric to be like, okay, let's execute and make it happen and move. And let's not procrastinate. Let's do. And so that works, right? So he lets me be like this, right? And I think that's helped a lot, even with the show. As we start thinking of different things, I'm able to do this. He's like, okay, let's execute, let's timeline, let's move, just what we got to do. That's why I was late, right? That's why I was late. He was there, I was tied up into something else, and I was like, oh, is Eric calling me twice? That means I need to be there, right? But it works. It works that way. And for us, any of the things that happen, it's like he kind of lets me. What now movement? Let's do that. All right, sounds good. Let's do that. Da. Now we move to next. Okay, we got to turn this into a company. Okay, let's do it. What do we need to do? Do. And it's just a good match, because two people like me, it's not going to work. Right? It's not going to work. Two people like him could probably work, but two people like me, two people. If I was like more like him, he'd probably be a lot happier. He wouldn't be stressed out. Okay, he knows Ted is going to be there. He knows Ted is going to do this, but it works though, right? Because you got to have one person, at least one person, is going to make sure. I mean, what better partner to have than the procrastination prevention partner?
I mean, right? That sounds incredible.
I mean, he can't be late on anything, because that's what you do. You're the procrastination prevention partner, right? So it's a good mix.
I love that, and it seems like part of that too is, and I'm giggling because like Linda is very much like you, Ted, and I am probably a little bit more like Eric, though I wish I was better at not procrastinating. I'm going to have to go reread the book and really dive in a little better. But I get that. And I think that part of it is like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, part of it is like learning to like accept yourself how you are and not try and fight against it, but maybe embrace and laugh at yourself a little bit so that you can find the person or the team to surround yourself with to make yourself successful.
Yeah, I think self-awareness is the key. Right? I think you just have to know yourself and really make adjustments. And so for me, the advantage is that like I pick up habits pretty easily. Like I can just make myself do things. But the disadvantage is I pick up habits pretty easily. So like I could keep doing something that's really not working. And Ted could come in and be like, hey, look, have we thought about this? We've been doing the same approach. It's very easy to get into this thing where you're on a hamster wheel and the needle's not moving. So I think that's where that yin and yang can be helpful somebody that's coming in that's looking at it, okay, what can we change, or what's another approach that we can take to this?
That seems like a great way to kind of like segue into the what now community. It seems like if you're like a solo entrepreneur, you're just getting started, you can be by yourself and either stay on the hamster wheel of what's not working, or have so many ideas and be pivoting so often that you just find yourself in a circle. So I'm wondering if you guys could introduce and talk a little bit about the What Now movement and what that community is up to, because I think it's just such a great idea.
Yeah. So I did pretty much explain how we got to this point with the What Now movement, where it was the pandemic and a lot of people were saying in our circles, oh, you know what, I've got this venture I'm thinking about, but I'm going to wait until things get back to normal. And we're like, man, that's the last thing you want to do. You should be asking yourself, what now? And like Ted said, we had to do that ourselves when one day we're going into this building to record our podcast, and now the building is locked because of COVID. So we said, hey, what now? Well, we can do this virtual thing. So now we want to inspire people through the What Now movement to pivot when they face a challenge and not just stop. So we do that. We have all kinds of inspirational content that's within the movement. We do summits within the movement. We've offered a masterclass. It was like a 7-week series we did. So just we provide this content, and like I said, we've got 1,700 people within the What Now movement Facebook group, and we're just providing this content to help to inspire people. We also have Coffee and Conversation. It's like a podcast series that we do. It's the first Saturday of every month, and this year we're talking about your goals and what do you need to be focused on. So we're just constantly providing content and resources to help people.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And you guys have a summit coming up. I'll make sure that we plug everything at the end, but when is that summit, just so that I don't forget to remind people here at the top?
So the actual summit is July the 16th. It's from 10 to 12:30. And we're actually doing a local meetup. We're still working out some of the details on the local meetup piece of it. So it's going to be a combination, but anybody on the planet with a computer can join us on Saturday, as long as you have Wi-Fi.
Need that.
On Saturday the 16th from 10 to 12:30. We're going to help you to move the needle. That's the theme.
I love it. I love it.
Lisa, one other thing that happens a lot of times is we've just become these digital dudes, right? Like we're always just thinking, like that's something we're gonna just start calling ourselves the digital dudes, right?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And we just put it, like we said, oh man, we created a platform that we have. It's called Doing Too Much. We just get together, a couple friends that are comedians, and they think that we think we're funny. We just didn't have fun and just don't take things so seriously. And we said, let's get online and start doing that. Then it was, man, everybody's always like, man, thank God it's Friday. And then we're like, man, well, what about thank God it's Monday, right? It's a new week. You get another opportunity to try something, to do something. So same thing. We said, okay, Erica's like, when you want to start? Want to start this week? Well, I don't know. My day starts, I got the crazy day. Let's do next Monday. Okay, so next Monday we get together. Eric comes in. Hey, here's the platform. This is what we do. These are things we're going to talk about. And I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. We get on. We get on at 10 o'clock. Okay, it's going to be quick. So we get on. It's going to be less than 10 minutes, right? So so the first one seemed a little longer. So I guess he said, well, Ted, Ted's gonna be less than 5, right? That's gonna keep us in, right? So he doesn't think that I know that's why he moved it to less than 5. He's probably thinking I talk a little longer. So I think he talks a little. I think we both talk a little longer, but whatever the case, we come on every Monday. Thank God it's Monday. We're letting folks know, look, it's Monday. Glass is half full. You got a job. You got an opportunity to do it again. You're living, right? This is great, right? Everything may not be perfect, but don't just give Friday all the benefit. Like Monday is amazing as well. And that started something. And now we're probably, 5 weeks there again?
It's been about 5 weeks.
Yeah. And then we just do this, right? So Eric and I are looking at each other on the screen several times a day, every day. and then we see each other in person at church.
You're like a hybrid friendship now,
That's because it's hybrid friendship. That's right.
It seems like one of the things that's really successful for you guys, and maybe this is also true in your lives before the digital dudes era, is like that you guys are open to experiment, and like see so much fun. And do you think that's a part of what makes what you guys do unique? Is this idea of experimentation and fun being at your core?
For sure. Yeah, I think you have to be open to new things. And I think
Mm,
both of us are willing to try and experiment and test and tweak. And yeah, absolutely. I think that's what makes it, because a lot of times you can do a lot of things, but you come on that one thing that hits,
mm,
and it can be a game changer. So I
mm,
do think that's something that helps.
mm,
It's kind of funny. Like Eric and I, we're about the same age, like where we went to college, and like our paths are very similar, right? Like our colleges, I went to Norfolk State University, he was at Hampton University. It's probably a 20-minute gap between the travel. And so there's times we probably have passed, but never got to know each
mm,
other until we ended up getting out of school. And then, again, meeting at church, and then just seeing how so many things we have in common and how we go about things. And it's interesting. Eric was telling me about his son and saying his son has a buddy, right, that's really close, right? And they're kids. I said, but that's going to be like a lifetime friendship, right? There's guys that
mm,
kind of move together a certain way as kids, and that'll be a lifetime friendship. Where Eric and I, even though we've kind of gone certain paths, like the way that we connect is like you would think we've known each other longer than we've known each other. And so I think it helps a lot with our podcast, right? Because most people come
mm.
on and, oh, we just had such a great time. And Eric and I was like, we just want to make it seem like we're just sitting at the table having wings and pizza,
Yeah.
no matter whoever comes to the show. Like, we want you to feel like, you're just hanging out. And I
Mm,
think that's something that I think really helps in just about everything that we do. It's a certain type of chemistry that's very natural, and I think it works well together.
I love that. I love that idea too of finding the people finding and embracing those relationships with people that you feel chemistry with, that you feel able to have fun with and show up with and kind of be your best selves around. I think that's something that I look forward to doing again, kind of as we come out of pandemic mode. It's just I'm a very extroverted person. So being in the presence of people and being able to make those relationships again, I think that's a muscle that we're going to have to continue to flex as we move back into sort of the real world,
Mhm.
using air quotes there. So I appreciate that reminder from you guys. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you guys both, because you guys are incredibly successful, is kind of, and this is like a very cliche, I'm sorry, this is not like the most exciting question in the entire world, but like, what do you guys think is a key element to your success, either together as a team or in your own work before you guys came together? Like, what is that key element that you think is central to that success that you guys clearly have in your work?
Well, I would say just kind of the complementary skill sets, I think.
Mm,
I think, and Ted mentioned it earlier, being the more creative, visionary type, me, the more, discipline, execution, and focus. I think it helps if you have a partnership where there's kind of that counterbalance that
mm,
helps. But I think you have to have a shared set of values. I think
mm,
that's really the key thing.
that's huge.
I think you have to have if the values are mismatched, I don't think it's going to work. So
That
I
is
think that's
huge.
one of the strengths of the podcast, is that we're aligned on values, but we have complementary skill sets.
Oh, right. Everyone write that down. That's such a
Yep.
good point. Aligned in values with complementary skill sets. Ted, you're shaking your head. I don't know if you want to add
I'm
anything
just
in
like,
there.
I'm like, what can I add to that?
I know.
Like what he said.
Put
Yeah,
that on a
yeah, yeah,
poster
yeah,
with,
yeah,
like,
yeah. What he
like a
said.
background.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
What he said.
So,
Quote unquote quote unquote
quote.
what he said. I love
So
it.
I want to also just give you a little bit of time to also talk about your podcast as well. You guys told me an incredible story of one of your guests, which I think is such a great reminder of why we should follow the things we're super passionate about. Like in your case, giving this individual the opportunity to have a platform and to share in her joy and the growth of her business, but also for her herself to follow something that she was super passionate about. So I was wondering if you could, the story I'm alluding to, the woman, that you had on several times. Could you tell that story? Because I just think it's so interesting and super powerful.
Yeah, I can touch on that. So the story that we're talking about is an individual named Chantel Powell. she has a company called Play Pits, and it's an all natural deodorant. So if you go to playpits.com, you can definitely check her out. But so we were friends, and and she had told me, she said, yeah, I started this deodorant business. It's all natural deodorant. Really? Yes. Her son is young children, and they played sports, and she was saying that one day that he had gotten in the car after she was picking him up and said, man, he's a young kid, but he smells like a man. Like, I got to do something with this, right? So I guess she has some very sensitive skin, and she remembered her grandmother teaching her something about kind of making things with like baking soda, these all natural products. And so she created this deodorant for her son. And so he went to school, and I guess as kids do, it's like, yeah, I got my own deodorant. My mom made it. And so he came back home and was like, okay, you got to make it for everyone. And she's like, well, no, I just did this for you. So he was like, no, you got to do it for everyone. And then that idea came, right? Like, oftentimes you're trying to find an idea, right? But that idea, she was blessed that idea was deposited in her to say, let me create this. So she creates it. She starts making her own label and everything to it. And I remember her showing it to him. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So then she was going to all these different sporting events for her kids and different PTA, all that, and just kind of promoting stuff like out of her trunk. And so when she first brought that on, I was like, hey, you'd be a great guest. And she was a guest during the time when we were bringing people into the office, right? So before pandemic. So she comes in, talks about the deodorant. I'm like, man, that's great. That's great. She's talking about it and the whole story. And it's like, okay, her dream was to be on the shelves of one of these, major distributors. Like, okay, that's great. And so fast forward to probably, 2021, and I'm having conversations with her throughout, right? Because this is, because I'm the business strategist. That's what I do, right? So she comes to me. She's asking me, oh, we should get this warehouse and this. And I'm like, oh, you want to hold off on this and da-da-da. And she just continue to move. And her family is totally in this. Like her husband, her kids, like everyone plays a part in this, right? And so they end up relocating. And then she gets this warehouse. So I'm like, oh, you got the warehouse now. Yep, we got the warehouse. And I'm not doing it in my kitchen anymore. I'm doing the warehouse. Oh, we got to have you back on the show. So we get her back on the show. And so we're like, hey, Eric and I, look, we need you to tour the place. So people can see you went from doing this in your kitchen to now you got your warehouse. She's in there. She's got staff. They got these pallets and all this stuff. It's crazy. She'd be a great guest for your show. So I'm gonna have to make that connection as well.
Yes.
So I don't want to tell the whole story, but it's such an amazing story. And so, she shows the warehouse. Okay, great progress, wonderful. Fast forward into 2022, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm on the shelves of Target." Like, what?
I have goosebumps.
And it's like 300 locations across the world. And we're like, what? And she talks about this story. And just one piece, she was talking about how she remembered like going in there and just, looking at her deodorant on the shelf. She's like, put it up there to see what it would look like. Right. And so we're just listening to this and we're just like, wow, like we've watched this thing happen. Like we've watched it from her kitchen to a warehouse to being on this, like that's a major like success story. And like,
huge.
And the story is just such an amazing story. But just as far as the podcast, right? Like we're talking personal development, like that's it. Like that is the foundation of, we didn't know, like we're going to get together. We want to do something. We just don't know what it is. That's what it is. Right? To be able to be a part of this, being able to share, being able to learn from each other, provide a platform where people can do amazing things and other people can see people doing these amazing things and you can do it too. Right? If Chantel Powell can do it, if Eric Twiggs and Ted Fields can do it, if anyone that comes on our show, you can do it. And so, yeah, it was just amazing. That story is just, it definitely is one that is a real life everyday person that just there was so many things that she had to deal with.
Oh yeah.
Like we don't think about that. When you think about, we just go to a store and we say, oh, that's on the shelves or whatever. We don't think about what it takes to get
no.
Yeah, you just say, hey, I want my product on the Target shelf. And they say, sure, no problem.
Yeah,
that's exactly how it works.
We'll put it right here.
That's how it goes. Yeah.
Wow.
Great guest though.
Wow. I think it's such a testament to the ways in which you guys in so many ways are showing everybody what's possible. And I think when I work with young people a lot, and their biggest impediment to knowing what just to what if they hate school, if they're just disenfranchised, it's a lot of the times they have no idea what's possible, and they've never seen anybody with their background or anybody with their skill level attain anything other than things that they don't want to do. And I thank you guys for creating a community around possibility, for helping people see what's possible, and then giving them the opportunity to take that possibility and turn it into a life that is incredible, you know? So I thank you guys for being out there and doing this. It's really important work that you guys are doing.
Oh, thank you. And we thank you because, you know, this whole digital platform that opens us up to connect with folks like you all as well. Right? To learn the lessons learned that we all can get by expanding our circle. Right? Because again, you know, our circles may not have connected in life except for these opportunities. So we thank you for that, and continuing to engage us, and we'll continue to engage you as well.
Yeah, I think it's just so important, the work that we all do, and the work that all of the members of the Goodness Exchange community do. I mean, that's, I think, one of the things that what brings us together is that, you know, we all are sharing the goodness. We call ourselves like mavens for the goodness that's happening in the world. And the people that are coming to these events and the people that are watching these videos after the events are the kind of people that are trying to find their role in all of this goodness. And so you guys are a huge part also of this ecosystem of people that are providing a different narrative for what's possible, and a different narrative of the world that people can step into and feel empowered by. So it's huge. And I'm so glad you're part of our big digital community.
Why would you not want to be connected to the Goodness Exchange? Like, that just sounds like a good place to be. Eric, what you doing today, man? I'm not doing that. Come on with me to the Goodness Exchange. I'm all in. Like that.
You can't be negative in the Goodness Exchange.
You can't be.
How are you supposed to be? Like, I'm personally, I get to interact with other people, the exchange part, and then also it's like about goodness. Like, what are we doing here, folks? You know, like
and that's the real movement we need to have. I mean, when you think about everything that's happening worldwide, if more people are thinking exchanging goodness, right? Like, you know, how much a better place it would be. And so you're doing your part, right? You're doing your part. So we all do our part with the What Now movement, the Goodness Exchange, the collaborations, and there's other groups out here that we start bringing together. Then you start seeing, you know, the change that we need to see.
And I'm starting to see too this among the community of people who are like ourselves, these content creators, these digital platforms that are doing things for goodness, for lack of a better term. It seems like we're starting to get traction, and we're starting to really understand the power we have if we elevate each other's voices. Like, you know, I think for years there was this narrative that, like, okay, you know, the pie is only this big, and if I have a section, you have a section. But like, while we're here to be mavens, to talk about people like you, then the people that are in our circles that then can go to you and can go to your movement and be empowered by that, they need that. And then we need the people that are on the front line being journalists and actually digging in and being the video content creators. Like, we need all of each other. And I'm noticing that we're all kind of embracing each other a little bit more and a little bit more often. And I think that's signaling something really important about the trends in media and the trends in what people are wanting out there. And I'm appreciating this community that we're all building together.
And you think about just so much you see with people dealing with kind of mental health issues. And sometimes some people just need to see something good, something good. And here's some success stories when someone didn't have it all figured out, right? And they saw that, wow, that person didn't have it all figured out. It didn't add up totally for them, but look at the other side if you just continue to keep pushing forward, right? I think those are the messages that need to be out there. And it all doesn't have to, I tell people all the time, it all doesn't have to add up.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I love that.
I got all these degrees. I did all this. I got all this experience and all of that. And only if I have that will I be successful. And then you can look at someone over here that didn't have any of that, but it was connected to the Goodness Exchange, connected to some people. And next thing you know, some people were able to collaborate. And again, you know, Eric and I was just two people that just said, hey, we want to do something. We want to go, let's go be great. We don't know how, but we're going to be great. Right? Sometimes that's what you got to do, right? You just got to get a couple together. Okay, this would be great. We're gonna figure this.
Yeah.
We're gonna figure this out, and
Yeah. I think it's huge. Like one of the things we always say about us is like, you're not alone in caring. Like, like I think that can be a really empowering statement. And it's one that when I meet a content creators like yourselves or podcasters or community leaders like you guys, to know that you're not alone in caring is always so empowering. Like when we came off of our pre-call earlier this week, I felt so empowered to know that even though my job is to tell people that they're not alone in caring, to then be able to talk to you guys. And whenever we have these events, I always leave feeling like I'm not alone in caring. Other people, if I can't feel like I'm carrying the torch 100% today, these guys over here are carrying the torch today, and tomorrow I can pick it up and we can keep moving forward. So I thank you. I know this is like just turning into a love fest, but I thank you guys for being a part of and reminding us that we're not alone in caring too, because that's really important.
I might have to turn my monitor off because I feel I'm getting a little misty over here. This is good stuff.
Well, we'll jump into questions. I know that Linda wants to ask you guys a few questions, and
Sure.
Bryce and possibly Ellen. So yeah, let's open it up to questions here in the last 20 minutes or so. And then at the very end, I'll also give you guys a platform to replug everything. But Linda, do you want to open us up to our first question?
Yes. I remember within 5 minutes of this interview how much fun we had. Because you guys interviewed me too. And I'm trying to think how we once connected. I can't remember. But anyway, this is a point that you guys make a lot, which I don't want to be lost in all the goodness we're talking about, is that you guys seem to leave room for a lot of serendipity. Like you don't plan too hard. And that leaves the door open for all kinds of unexpected things that might be actually better than what you had planned if you planned it to the T. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think that helps. So even when I prepare for the podcast, right? Like I have certain questions I send people. Like I sent you questions, but it's not totally like for me. The reason I put questions together ahead of time is that now it's out of my head, right? And I can really just focus and listen 100%. And that's where the serendipity comes in, right? So a lot of times really on the podcast, it's conversational. We're vibing off of things you're saying. And now I'm open to taking things in a whole other direction. We may not have started the podcast with that intention. So I do think you do have to be, you just can't be, and that's why it's good that I have Ted in my life, because if I get to the point where I'm just, that's right. Ted will just interrupt and do something crazy.
That's right, because Ted hasn't seen those questions. So the questions that Ted comes in are going to be off the top of Ted's head. So there's that mix, but then again, it's the kind of chemistry. Like I kind of know when Eric's going a certain place or whatever, and then I know places where, most times, right, that I can just kind of jump in. And then sometimes, I know early on, we were just figuring it out. I'm sure Eric was like, Ted. And then after a while, I was like, okay, Ted's going to go sometimes. And we get to that point where we kind of figure how that best works. But I think it just makes it, so the guest feels like, yeah, you put some time into this and you prepared. And then the other side is, okay, but be comfortable though. Like you're just talking to Ted, right? You're just talking to Ted, right? There's no wrong answer in it. Just let's just flow. And I think that works well.
Mom, you got your hand back up.
I just, as a follow-up to that, because you made me think about it, there's a wonderful TED Talk done by a woman, Principal Linda Clyde Wayman. Principal Wayman is how she's known. She turned around one of the most dangerous schools in America with love. It's one of the most, it gives me goosebumps to think about. It's one of the most unbelievable TED Talks, moving TED Talks you'll watch. Anyway, what I was so excited about when I heard about this What Now movement, she used to say that. That's one of the things she says in her, she says something like that. She says, so what, now what? I think it's really easy to get, especially in these times, drugged down by all the ways we sort of argue for our limitations. And her answer is, okay, yeah, that might be true. You got all that stuff stacked against you, but so what? Now what? And so, how do we get ourselves in, out of those downward spiral conversations, even when they're just with ourselves?
Yeah, I think you have to give yourself some grace, right? you have, because I think a lot of times we beat ourselves up. Like I can say for me, like I can be my worst critic,
Mm.
and I can really be hard on myself and hold myself really to task on certain mistakes. But I think you have to get to the point where you let it go and you understand that, hey, it is what it is. Let's so a lot of times if I make a mistake, I have this thing, I'll just write it down, right? If I mess up, I just, that way it gets out of my head. Now I can, like, so what now? Now I can move on.
Mm.
But I think that's a key thing. I think if you're, and then for me, like the habit of meditation, that's where it helps, right? Because sometimes when you meditate and then your mind will start wandering. And when you first start meditating, you beat yourself up. Like, oh my goodness, I can't stay. I'm supposed to be just thinking about my breathing, right? But then you get to the point where, okay, my mind wandered. That's okay. Now I'm back on course. Let's continue this. Okay, yeah, I said I was gonna concentrate for 10 minutes. I did 5 minutes. Okay, that's good for today. Tomorrow I'm gonna. So that I would recommend that habit to anybody that's looking to get better at that internal conversation piece.
Mm.
Yeah, I think for me, and I think everyone kind of has how they kind of go about it. Like, a lot of things for me, and I'm sure as Eric as well, kind of tied back to like our faith, as I mentioned, that we met in church, right? And so in that, it's kind of like, okay, God is just going to work it out, right? Like I've seen it happen so many times, right? And if you see it as you get older and you've been through certain situations, you're like, okay, well, how did I get out of that one, right? And faith kind of gets you through, and so I kind of process that, that way, right? I'll look at certain things within my IT company, and we're looking at an opportunity, and someone on the team will be like, well, we don't have past performance in doing that. I said, well, when I started, I didn't have past performance in anything. Not having past performance didn't stop me before. Why is it going to stop me now? Not having past performance. It's the ideal time to get some performances now, right? So the mindset is always more on a kind of the glass is half full versus half empty. And I think that has helped a lot, and you see it over the years and those things happen. So you kind of go into these things kind of in a positive mindset that you're gonna be able to figure out whatever it is. And the challenge sometimes is the other people around you, they haven't been through what you've been through. So they're like, oh my gosh. I tell my people all the time, like, look, you got to treat this like you're locked in a room and you got to get out. So just sitting here in this room and just being like, oh, I guess I'm just here for the rest of my life. No. You got to go. That's why I don't ever have to worry about going to jail, because they're not gonna keep me in there, right? I'm gonna get out one way. I'm just sitting there, right? They're like, oh, what he's doing? Oh yeah. All right, he's bought. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here, right? But yeah, that's just a mindset, right? No matter what it is in business, and like, okay, you gotta figure it out, and then getting good people around you that have been through some things, and mentors and coaches, and then just be able to have platforms like this where you share, and you find out someone else was able to do it, and usually people are okay to talk to you, right? They'll take some time if you reach out to them. Most people love to tell you their story and some of the things that they did for free to a point, right? But you can do that, and so we just try to just stay positive in these things, and not take stuff too seriously all the time, and most times you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's so great, and it comes on the heels of, I think my brain has finally reached that point, which I'm so excited about. Is like calamity. Linda breaks her leg last week, and like I was on the call with my team when she told me this happened, and I laughed, and I was like, we can get through it. Like we can do it. Like there's nothing more ridiculous than this moment now. Like just sort of the moment of it was just so kind of absurd. And I just laughed. And like now it feels like after that kind of letting it be, that you can just kind of release it and say, I'll be creative enough to figure it out. I have the amazing people around me who will, if I can bring them on board, they'll help me figure it out. And so I thank you for bringing that up, because it's a good reminder to me, myself, and anybody who's a leader watching this, that like, that's such a huge part of that is just, you can find your way out of the room. You're going to find your way out of the room.
And again, I'll say it again, it doesn't always have to add up. It doesn't have to add up. It's, 2 + 2 is 4. No, it's 2 + X. Like what is the X, right? You'll figure it out. You just got to think through it. And it wouldn't be fun if it always just added up.
Right. That's true.
Because then only the people that have done certain things will ever be successful, right?
That's
if it just
very
had
true.
to add up.
It's very true. That's
Yep.
very true. Bryce, I see you've got your hand up. You want to jump in here?
Yes. So Eric, my question is for you, and Ted, if you can jump in too. So as the procrastination expert, I've been working from home for the last year, and I was wondering if you had any advice or like one big tip that you have for people that you've been giving to people who are working from home or running a business from home with regards to procrastination, because I know that's a concern for a lot of people, is that like the personal life is distracting them from work. So do you have any tips on that?
Yeah, I do. So first and foremost, it helps if you can keep a similar routine that you had, when you were going into an office, from the standpoint of like when you wake up at a certain time, you get a shower, you do this, you shave, you do, really keeping that same routine as opposed to just like rolling out of bed and going into your office, right? Because then it doesn't really feel as official, right? So the first step, if you can shave, that similar routine, wake up at a certain time, and that tells your brain, okay, yep, we got to do this. And then when you go to work, to be aware of your distractions, be aware of what distracts you. Is it the cell phone, which is the most distracting thing for most people? And just really look to minimize those distractions. Can you get rid of like the chimes, the notifications every time you get an email, the different alerts when you get a text message, and give yourself a distraction-free environment. And also make sure it helps if you're working off of, like I have something I call the Twiggs top 5, right? So at the end of every day, I write down the 5, I have a little 3x5 card I keep with me, and I write down the 5 critical things I've got to do for the following day. So now I have priorities. So I think if you can combine those things, and then also I think if you've got a spouse, partner, someone that's with you, you may have 2 different definitions of working from home, right? So for me, working from home is, hey, I'm working. But for my spouse, working from home is, hey, you know what? This is just like being home and we can just kind of relax. And so everybody needs to be on the same page that, hey, you know what? From these hours to these hours, I'm not going to be as accessible because I'm actually going to be doing this and that. So I think those are some things to think about.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Right. Eric just gave you some good points. I don't want to mess you up, right? Because I'm a little different. Eric's smiling like I'm a little different, right? So, the good thing about my office environment for my company is it's a small office of less than 10 people. So I was able to go in when others didn't, and then when others felt comfortable, everybody had their own offices, so we were able to socially distance from there. And so a majority of the pandemic, I worked in my office, right? Now, from time to time, I work from home, but the problem for me working from home, I'm a little different than Eric, right? Somewhere during the day, the couch or the love seat says, you want a nap. You want a nap, right? The refrigerator is right next to my dining room where I have the tape, so I'm here and I'm looking to the left and it's like, you want something to eat. You want something to eat. And then after you get something to eat, you're gonna want another nap, right? So for me, it's tough in this environment. Like I gotta go into my office, right? I gotta go into my office, even though I can do the same thing here, right? Because there are those distractions and I'm not really good at not listening to that refrigerator saying, open me, come on in here. You want to eat. Oh, that couch, they're both in there, they're in concert, they keep coming for me, right? So I think, like Eric said, he gave you great advice there of kind of getting your structure together, getting yourself in a certain place, because there's a bunch of distractions, in the house, in the home.
One thing I'll say too on that is it can, I know people have experienced the other side of it where they find they work more, right? Because let's say if you were going into the office all the time, you had 2 hours of commute time a day. So now you say, well, I can work longer, right? I don't have, if you work in an office, you have to stop at 5 o'clock, right? But if at home, you can just keep going. So I know for myself, I found myself just working around the clock. And my wife is like, Eric, what are you doing?
What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? There's no travel. There's
you
no
have
travel
to
time.
stop,
There's no
It's-
travel time, right? Because 8
Yeah.
o'clock meeting, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock.
Yeah. So I would say, if you're working from home, give yourself a start time and give yourself a stop time, because you do need that, and just you have to cut it off. And then the other thing is, I think you'll be more productive when you got a stop time. When you know what, 5 o'clock stop time, whatever your time is, it'll force you to try to get more done and make the most of the time you have.
Great points.
This is great. This is great. And I think it goes back to something that's like a huge part of your guys' success and the success of your business. It's like, learn to know yourself, experiment with what's working and what's not, have fun with it, and understand. And if you're able to understand yourself, you're able to like say, okay, this is experiment. I don't have to treat this forever. I'm just going to go try it and see what works. Then you can find out more about yourself and keep optimizing your work life, your home life, your best friendships, your best friendships that also become great podcast ships. Like, it's all there. So I think this is such a great way to kind of wrap up today's happiness hour. And I want to give you guys a chance to talk about what is our best way and our community's best way to support you guys and the work that you guys are doing.
Okay. Well, I would say, for starters, to start following the 30-minute hour podcast. That's a great way to do it. So you can go, we have a website, the 30minutehour.net. And when you go there, you'll see that we've got it offered on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, any of those places that you like to consume content. So just start following the 30minutehour.net. That's probably the best thing you can do.
Great.
Also join the What Now movement.
Sure.
You can go out on Facebook and do a search on the What Now movement, or you can go to, whatnowmovement.com.
The website, the whatnowmovement.com.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Join there. And then we're just looking at ways to, to continue to collaborate here. I think there's so many possibilities here. You guys are doing such amazing things, and we'd love to be a part of anything that you have that you think we'd be a fit. And we're definitely going to be including you, because we want to share the goodness, right?
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much. We'll make sure to put links to the podcast and the Facebook group here in the description as people watch in the future. And once again, just thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you guys for being such rays of sunshine. This was such a wonderful way to end my day here across the pond. And I hope you guys have a great remainder of your day. And to all you watching, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.